Now, those wide-ranging Iranian counterstrikes have struck countries across the entire Gulf region, and many of them host American bases. Tehran views all U.S. interests, bases, and centers of influence as legitimate targets as it responds to the joint military attacks on its territory by the U.S. and Israel.
Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, is a premier destination for the ultra-rich, a safe haven, insulated from regional conflicts. There are no bomb shelters or bunkers here. It's about luxury stores and buildings. But that bubble was shattered.
Oh my God! Lord Jesus!
After the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran. A luxury hotel on the iconic Palm Island was one of the buildings hit when Iran launched its salvo of retaliatory strikes. The UAE says more than 136 ballistic missiles and 200 drones were fired at its territory. It managed to intercept most. A senior UAE diplomat called it misguided for Iran to attack its neighbors, saying it only serves to further isolate Tehran at a critical moment. This escalation only reinforces the narrative that Iran is the primary source of danger in the region, says Anwar Gargash in a post on X. Deal with your neighbors with reason before the circle of isolation and escalation widens. A volley of Iranian missiles was also intercepted over Qatar, which hosts the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. The government in Doha called the attacks a flagrant violation of its sovereignty and said it reserved the right to respond. Like Qatar, the UAE hosts U.S. troops in the Middle East. Iran says these Gulf states are fair game for its retaliatory strikes. Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan have also been targeted by Iranian drones and missiles. In Amman, ministers from Jordan and Syria held a joint press conference to condemn Iran's attacks on its neighbors.
I reiterate, in light of the ongoing regional events, our strongest condemnation of the targeting of Jordanian territory by Iranian missiles, as well as the targeting of the territories of other brotherly Arab states.
The strikes and counterstrikes have led several countries to close their airspace in the Middle East, stranding tens of thousands of passengers wanting to fly into and out of the region.
Giorgio Cafiero is the CEO of Gulf State Analytics and an adjunct assistant professor at Georgetown University. So how damaging exactly are Iran's counterstrikes for relations with its neighbors?
Thank you so much for having me on your program. To answer your question, the manners in which Iran is choosing to retaliate to the American and Israeli aggression, in my opinion, will do quite a bit to damage Iran's relationships with GCC countries. Now, at this point, Iran's retaliatory attacks have targeted all 6 of the GCC members. That's very significant, especially when one considers that the Sultanate of Oman, the lead mediating state in the Gulf, was also targeted by Iran. We are seeing very strong statements coming from the Gulf Arab statesmen, making it very clear that Iran's aggressive behavior toward them and Iran's violations of their sovereignty are unacceptable breaches of international law. The message is very clear that these countries were trying to avert this conflict. They were working day and night to try to provide the Trump administration with diplomatic off-ramps, and it's not their fault that the U.S. and Israel chose to strike Iran, yet they have to pay the price in terms of dealing with Iran's wrath. The Iranian line that these are not attacks on these Gulf Arab countries, but rather on U.S. military bases in these countries is not really having any effect on the Gulf Arab leaders who understand that these bases are on their country's soil. Thus, it's a violation of their sovereignty. And at the same time, Iran has decided to hit civilian infrastructure, hotels, airports, and so on in GCC states. I don't exactly know what's in store for the Iranian-Saudi relationship, for example, but it's almost 3 years that have gone by since Riyadh and Tehran renormalized through the agreement in Beijing. right now, I think there's good reason for both sides to be worried about this detente between Riyadh and Tehran falling off track because of the way in which Tehran has decided to respond to the U.S. and Israel's act of aggression.
Now, in an interview with Al Jazeera, Iran's foreign minister said some of his country's military units had become independent and somewhat isolated. So is Iran losing control over parts of its military?
I don't think that's the message he was trying to get out. I know that obviously Iran and Oman have a very, very close relationship. Many people who have been following this relationship closely, myself included, were rather baffled that Iran would decide to target Duqm in Oman. And I think perhaps this message from Iran's foreign minister was an effort to try to salvage the good relationship between Tehran and Muscat, and to try to heal some of the, to try to address some of the damage and to try to reverse it. But I did not necessarily read his statement as one in which the Iranian leadership is suggesting that it no longer has control over its military.
All right. That was Giorgio Cafiero talking to us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.